Peace and love, beautiful people. Sunday service. Come on here and get your soul fed. Nourishment comes in many forms. Just wanted to come on and share a little bit of sunshine, enlightenment with you on this beautiful day, this intentional day. Peace, peace, welcome. So, as you can see from the title of this video, I'm going to be talking about resentment versus contentment. I'm going to give it just a few moments. I really wish I had some tea. Peace, peace, welcome. Come on in this spiritual space and share a little bit of time with me. Thank you, thank you. Sending you some love right back. So, I'm so grateful that I'm able to be here today in life, here virtually. Just so many things we take for granted, like being able to go to sleep and to rise the next day, and or going to and from your destination safely, or just a lot of the things that we don't really consider valuable until we don't have them, or until someone else is in a situation where they don't have them, and it helps us to reflect on our own circumstances and realize how blessed we truly are. Just the beating heart, the pumping blood, the flowing breath. All of these things are always reminding us that we are alive. We can't see life, and yet we know that we are alive. We know that we are living. And so how we direct that life, that energy is completely up to us, and that is one of the gifts that we have as human beings, is the freedom to choose. We have, free will, so to speak. It's not so free because we end up paying for it. Hi, welcome. Hey, Cherry. Oh, wow, it's been a long time. Hi, Mina. Hi, guys. Let's see. Dana, peace. Okay, so let's just go ahead and get right into it, shall we? It is on my heart to talk about resentment versus contentment, okay? And it just started flowing out of me today after my meditation that I had to write it down. This is usually what I write, my really reflective thoughts after I meditate. But what I wrote, I was writing notes and definitions and like I'm about to teach a class. So come on, pull up a seat, grab a little water or your recreationals, Beautifully stated. Thank you. Come on, let's talk about it. I feel like so many things in our lives could be simpler. So many conflicts could be resolved. So many disagreements and disconnections could be harmonized through just being able to communicate effectively, being able to talk about, period, whatever it is, whatever you need to fill in the blank, talk about it, without judgment towards yourself or others, just talk. And in that talking, we get to hear ourselves, we get to listen to others, we get to learn things about ourselves and about others, and what we do with that information is so vital. Okay, so we're talking about resentment versus contentment. So I went and I looked up the definitions and just different things I'm going to share with you guys, because I love words. I love etymology. I like knowing where words come from, where they originate. I like the phonetics of words, how they break down, how we say things, and how it can have a double or even more than two meanings, and how those words carry vibrations. So communication is so important. I used to do spelling bees, and I always used to be in the dictionary and the thesaurus with my mom, and she used to tell me if I couldn't spell a word or I didn't know what it meant, then I didn't need to be using it. So I was like, this is preposterous. That's so funny. Someone said, ooh, I like that. Not seeing eye to eye can be fixed with a heart to heart. Ooh, yes. Not seeing eye to eye can be fixed with a heart to heart. I received that. Thank you for sharing that so much. Okay, so resentment. Resentment. As a noun, it is defined as bitter. Bitter indignation at having been treated unfairly, or persistent ill will at something regarded as wrong. So then I looked up indignation, and it is defined as anger or annoyance provoked by what is perceived as unfair treatment. Okay? So resentment is bitter indignation at having been treated unfairly, or a persistent ill will at something regarded as wrong. And then indignation is defined as anger or annoyance provoked by what is perceived as unfair treatment. Synonyms for these words include bitterness, dissatisfaction, discontentment, grudge, animosity, jealousy, malice, spitefulness, malevolence, hostility. Antonyms for this word include contentment, happiness, calmness, acquiescence, endurance, forgiveness. Okay? So resentment is basically an emotional response to or an emotional state resulting from a slight or indignity. So basically, resentment is an emotional response to something that we perceive as unjust or injustice, but it's unjustly done. So it is an emotional response or an emotional state that arises from something that we perceive to be basically negative. And when I was thinking about that, I think about how our perception is just like the outfits that we wear. You know, your outfit might be different, my outfit might be different, or we can change it a couple times in the day, or we can change it, you know. Basically, everyone's looking through a different lens. And based on how we're feeling, what lens we see through is going to be different. Okay? So resentment is just one of those lenses through which we perceive something. Okay? Because emotions are just energy in motion, and emotions come to make us aware. So when a certain feeling or emotion arises within you, that is an opportunity to become curious about what lies beneath the surface. Unfortunately, many of us don't get to that point because we are reactive. As soon as something is said or done that we don't like or we don't agree with, or it doesn't make us feel good, we are impulsively like doing things or saying things or thinking things, or we're basically, this feeling is arising, and rather than us taking the time to lean into it and just see what is there and why is this there and what can I learn from this and how can I grow, is this how I want to respond, we just take it as a like flag, like green flag, go pedal to the metal, hit it, like and we don't realize how we see things is not always how they are. We see things not as they are, but as we are. And so our perception is a reflection of how we are processing the situation or circumstances. Okay, so I wrote, many people harbor resentment and other negative emotions within them because they've yet to shift their perspective of the situation or circumstance at hand. Many people harbor resentment or other negative emotions within them because they've yet to shift their perspective of the situation or circumstance at hand. To harbor is a verb. It means to keep a thought, feeling, typically negative, in one's mind, especially secretly, or shelter or hide. So I'll use words and then I'll go back and I'll look up what those words mean, because sometimes what we think something means isn't what it actually means. And so one thing that I always say is self-evaluation leads to self-evolution. If I am willing to evaluate myself, the thoughts that I won't even say that I think, the thoughts that I entertain, the thoughts that I choose, the words that I choose, the actions that I choose, if I can realize that all of those things can be evaluated, and I'm open to evaluating those things, then I'm always going to be open to evolving and growing and seeing where something no longer fits, or maybe it really didn't fit and I was just trying to make it fit, or whatever the self-discovery may be. Unfortunately, many of us feel like we think we know who we are. Like we think we know who we are based on the conscious thoughts and actions that we're aware of, but we're unaware of the subconscious thoughts and the root of many of our reactions. I hope that makes sense. So when we take the time to study ourselves, then we become more aware of how we really are and who we really are, because our thoughts become words, and our words, become actions, and our actions become, over time, habits, and habits form our character. And so our character really is compiled of all of these little intricate things that go on in the mind and in the body. And if we're not really being conscious of that connection and conscious of what we're choosing, then we're not really, we're not living our best lives, people. And what is life if not to live fully, fulfilled, which that is a synonym for contentment. We're getting there. So let me get back to what I'm talking about here. Resentment. So basically, our perspective is a particular attitude towards a way of regarding something. Our perspective is our point of view. Again, our perspective, that's the glasses that we choose to put on and see out of in any given moment, in any given situation, any given circumstance. What we rarely do when we're in one situation is take the time to just, let me just take these off for a minute. Let me just take those off for a minute. Let me just step away. Or let me put on these ones. Let me see if these look any better. Let me look at it now and see, I didn't even see that before. Those, glasses, maybe they had a smudge on them, or maybe they're not the prescription that we need for this particular instance. Whatever the case may be. And what we really, really rarely do, is exchange lenses with another person just to be able to see how they have come to the conclusion that they've come to, or how they feel the way that they feel. You can agree with someone, or we can disagree with each other without being rude. Like, the disagreement isn't grounds for disrespect, And I feel like the relationships we have with other people are very reflective of the relationships that we have with ourselves. So if we feel that we disagree with someone about something, and that is grounds for us to be disrespectful towards another, imagine what your inside dialogue is like. Or if you see other people and they're being rude or hurtful or, dishonest or whatever the case may be towards another, just imagine what their relationship is like with themselves. Why is it so easy to go to the negative lens, right, about any given situation when we have a choice to see it through whatever lens we choose? But a lot of times we're not choosing, we're just reacting rather than responding. We'll get to that as well. Peace and love, beautiful people. Peace, peace, peace. Welcome. So what I wrote next is, harboring ill will towards another is like you consuming poison and expecting the other party, to be affected by it. Ultimately, it will only affect you and your life. It will only taint your perspective. If you take poison, you're the one that's going to be blurry. You're the one that's going to be, stumbling. You're the one that's going to be experiencing the side effects of whatever it is that you're taking in. Okay? So to harbor ill will is to keep it, to shelter it, to hide it within you. And if you think about the connotation of those words and how intentional you have to be to hide something, how intentional you have to be to shelter something, how intentional you have to be to keep something. And we're choosing to intentionally keep ill will towards another or towards a situation or towards a circumstance because of the way that we've perceived the situation. Basically, we're the only ones that's going to be affected by that. It's only our view and vision that is showing it to us in this way. So whatever we react to is only going to, again, not to say that our decisions don't affect and impact more than just us. Every action has a reaction. That is law. That is natural law. That is karma. That is spiritual law. Every action has a reaction. So it's not to say that our decisions don't affect more than just ourselves, because they certainly do. But we must realize that because we are the originator of this vision, we are going to have to be receptive. We're going to have to be subjected to what it is that we're putting out. Because what goes up must come down. What goes out, is already in. And so on and so forth. As above, so below. All right. So this is my thought. I think that resentment is just a hardened version of disappointment. Again, I think resentment is just a hardened version of disappointment. When we have expectations about how a person or situation, when we have expectations about a person or situation, it means we have a strong belief that something will happen a particular way. When circumstances don't align with our expectations, we ultimately feel disappointed. Disappointment, as a noun, is defined as sadness or displeasure caused by the non-fulfillment of one's hopes or expectations, or failed satisfaction. So disappointment is sadness or displeasure caused by the non-fulfillment of one's hopes or expectations, or in other words, failed satisfaction. We weren't satisfied, so we're sad. Oh, we weren't satisfied, so we were sad. I like that. Okay. So it says, when we take the time, it says it because I wrote it. When we take the time to sit with and process our response to the emotions that arise within us, we put ourselves in a position to gain emotional clarity and spiritual insight. Again, when we take the time to sit with and process our response to the emotions that arise within us, we put ourselves in a position to gain emotional clarity and spiritual insight, which insight is just clarity and clarity is just insight. emotions are energy in motion. So if the emotions arising in me are just energy that's moving in a certain way, if I can take a moment to pause and lean into that energy and just take a curious approach, a compassionate approach to what is at the root or what is at the origin of this emotion, then I will be able to clear that energy, clear that channel, clear that emotion out. And I'll be able to gain spiritual insight, because we have to remember, we are not a body with a spirit. We are a spirit with a body. We're not just human beings. We're divine beings having a human experience. And sometimes we get so caught up in our humanness that we forget that we have this divinity that exists within us. The same divinity that we see outside of us. But we get so caught up on the human perspective, the human lens, that we forget we have those divine glasses we can put on at any time. That divine filter. Okay? So in a sense, resentment is the human perspective. Contentment is the divine perspective. If we were to trace our emotions to the root, to the origin of cause, I am certain we would unearth a deeper level of emotional awareness. And ultimately, we will be faced with a choice: evolve or remain the same. And as I wrote that question to myself, I thought about remaining the same, again, over, repeated. And it made me think about the word resentment. As I said in the beginning of this video, I'm a lover of words and what they do and how you can use them and rearrange them and where they come from and what they mean and how they have different meanings and the vibrations that words carry. So when I think about resentment, if I look at the word RESENT, we can just say resent. We say it resent, like it's a Z in there, but there's an S, and if we pronounce it as the S, it would say resent. Resent. Re is a prefix that means again. It indicates repetition, or backwards, like reverse. It indicates backward motion. Okay, so re is again, or repetition, or backwards. Sent is the verb of, or the past tense of send. Send is defined as cause to go or be taken to a particular destination. Cause to go or be taken to a particular destination. So when I think about resent or resent, basically it's saying to be caused to go back again, or to be taken to a particular destination again, or to be taken to a backward destination again. However we rearrange the words, we're going to get the same outcome. Resentment. So to resent something is to be dissatisfied, but it's deeper than that, because I'm going to choose to harbor and keep this feeling within me of ill will towards my failed expectations. And I'm going to redirect, because really I feel like resentment is just misdirected energy. Instead of directing that energy towards where it needs to go, I'm going to send it outward because someone made me feel this way. No one can make you feel anything. People can inspire you to be aware of something within you. Whether you choose to take that as inspiration or something else is completely up to you. So resent is basically sent again. If you're resenting something, you're sending yourself backwards. You're sending yourself back to that place where there's dissatisfaction, where there is unfulfillment. You're choosing that. It's a choice. So if we are to trace our emotions to the root, to the origin of cause, like I started out with the word resentment, but I just broke it down in little bitty pieces, and I just went to the root of what each word meant so that I'm able to bring it to a whole and have a better understanding. If we were to do that with our emotions when they arise, instead of just taking it all, just take a little bit, take a little piece of it, break it down. What does this feel like? What is this here to teach me? Tell me. What can I learn? How can I grow? Okay. If we were to trace our emotions to the root, the origin of cause, I am certain we would unearth a deeper level of emotional awareness. And ultimately, we would be faced with a choice: evolve or remain the same. So to resent or resent, to send again, to go backwards, to repeat, that is remaining the same. The other option is to evolve. Evolve is defined as, it is a verb, and is defined as develop gradually, especially from a simple to a more complex form, right? So it's, first of all, it says develop gradually. Evolution is not something that happens in the blink of an eye or over the course of a year or even a lifetime. But that doesn't mean that every step, every intention, every word, thought that we choose is not either moving us forward or keeping us stagnant or sending us backwards. Resentment is sending us backwards. Resent. Stop sending yourself backwards. Choose to go forward. Choose to evolve, to develop gradually, especially from a simple to a more complex form. Maybe the way that I've been wearing this lens, the way I've been viewing the situation has been very basic, very simple. Like, this person did this because this. I don't have any backstory. I don't have any desire to have the backstory. I am only going on my limited perception based on the emotions that I'm feeling without actually gaining clarity of what those emotions are presenting to me, right? So then we have to remember that it is very important. Give me one moment. It is very important for us to have emotional awareness. But if we are so reactive to everything that comes up, then we don't have the time to pause. Because practicing the pause is a spiritual practice. Remember, you're not a body with a spirit, you're a spirit with a body. When the feelings arise in the body, that is a guide, a signal that there's something going on beneath the surface. Rather than letting it come up and bust out, we sit with it. I was watching a video the other day, and there was this guy. He had 2 bottles of Coke. I don't drink soda. So anyway, he had 2 bottles of Coke, and he shook them up. And he was like, okay, this is us when our emotions are moving. One of them, he immediately popped the top on it, and the soda spewed and went everywhere. And then there was like half of the soda left. Okay. The other one, he left it with the lid on, and after a few moments, he popped the top. Nothing came out because it had settled. So basically, showing us what it's like to sit with our emotions rather than being reactive, rather than letting them blow the lid, rather than being impulsive, harboring ill will towards another. And that's just going to cause things to build up inside of you until eventually the lid has to burst because it has nowhere to go. But when you allow yourself to be calm and peaceful, content, we're getting there, then you're able to see things more clearly and you're able to have a more calm approach. And the other thing about the bottles that he shook, once he popped the lid on that one, the soda was gone, right? He couldn't get back what was lost. And sometimes we don't realize when we're being reactive and we're making decisions impulsively from an emotional space. You can't always get things back. Once the word is said, you can't take it back. Once the time has passed, you can't get it back. You know, there are a lot of things in life that we sometimes take for granted. So just learning to sit with what you're feeling can be a very, very, very helpful tool to gaining spiritual clarity, emotional clarity, spiritual insight. And with that insight and with that clarity, you're able to make more sound decisions and ultimately better outcomes. So we'll get to contentment. That's the last word here that I have. So resentment versus contentment. Resentment, defined as bitter indignation at having been treated unfairly, persistent ill will at something regarded as wrong. Contentment is defined as a state of satisfaction, a peaceful ease of mind. So contentment isn't about being happy or like ecstatic, but it's being peacefully at ease with what is, being satisfied with what you have. Synonyms for contentment: equanimity, serenity, fulfillment, ease, gratification, tranquility, peace or peaceful. So ultimately we can see how resentment and contentment are like night and day, you know, and they're both purposeful. I will say that, because I don't feel like you can really truly be content with something until you've gone through the process. And something that shows up as resentment can be an opportunity to be transformed into contentment. Because resentment is basically feeling a negative way because an outcome didn't meet your expectations. And when we have expectations, it's basically just having a strong belief that something will happen a certain way. But sometimes we put so much belief in that which is not real, not factual, not tangible. It's just a belief. We put so much energy into that to when, if it doesn't happen, we automatically feel negatively towards the person or the situation. And we start to harbor that negativity, hold it, and let it harden within us. And that disappointment, it was once just sadness. I'm disappointed because this didn't happen. That sadness has now hardened into resentment, into bitterness, into dissatisfaction. That disappointment has hardened into animosity, malevolence, hostility, spitefulness. All of these are synonyms for the word resentment. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be a harboring space. I don't want to be grounds for anything of the likes, like anything of the negative that isn't going to contribute to my growth or me being better. I don't want to be bitter. The first synonym for resentment is bitterness. I don't want to be bitter. I want to be better. I want to be better. What about you? So I think resentment is bitterness. Contentment is betterness. And that concludes my TED Talk. Thanks for coming. That's a very simple way of putting it. Yes, resentment is bitterness. Contentment is betterness. We have the power to choose. How you view your situations, your circumstances, other people is a reflection of you and what is going on within you. And sometimes we're not taking the time to slow down and pause to even realize that how I'm seeing things is just that. It's just how I'm seeing things. It doesn't mean that that's the only way. It doesn't mean that it's the best way. Yeah. Resent, to send again. Stop sending yourself back to the places where you don't desire yourself to be. Be content with where you are, even if it's not where you want to be. That's okay. That's okay. When you're in your car and you're driving, let's say you're driving 100 miles away, yes, you can put the destination in your GPS, but you can only take it, mile by mile or whatever. I don't know how they measure distance on the road, but I know how, but not really. But you can just take it piece by piece, step by step, and you can only go as far as the headlights on your car lead you. So when it starts getting dark, you have to have faith. You have to have faith, knowing that where you are right now is where you need to be, and you'll get to where you're going. But the journey is the destination. I think that resentment, it keeps us stagnant, or it tries to keep us going in reverse. Like we're trying to drive forward, but we're looking in the mirror, or the rearview mirror. You're trying to drive forward, but you're looking in the mirror. Baby, you're gonna crash. You're gonna endanger other people. You're gonna be swerving in and out. You're gonna be, not focused, not aligned, not in tune, because you're so focused on what happened and not realizing that that's only based on how you're choosing to view it. You're 200 miles more down the road and you're still stuck on something that happened 50 miles ago, and not using it to be content, to be grateful. Like, I'm grateful I made it through that, but yeah, the woe is me or the negative Nancy story. Come on, baby. It's time to level up. It's time to empower yourself. You are the victor. Claim victory over your life and your journey and your path. I think that an attitude of gratitude is one of the best practices that anyone can implement into their lives, because it ultimately brings you into the present moment. To be grateful is to give thanks for what you have. And when you're being grateful for what you have, it's really hard to focus on what you had or what you would like or want, because you realize how blessed you really are with everything that you already have. We are so blessed. We are so blessed. Put your hand over your heart. Somebody's heart didn't beat today. Somebody's heart didn't start today. You woke up today. You rose and you got to see this beautiful day. Somebody didn't. You got the eyes to see this. You have technology. You have breath flowing. First and foremost, the breath. Oh, the breath is life. The breath is life. The breath is our direct connection to spirit. We can go days without water. You can go weeks without food. You can't go more than minutes without the breath. And yet we're using our breath to complain, which is basically like giving praise for what you don't like. It's like praying for what you don't want. Whereas gratitude is praising what you do want, what you are grateful for, what you do have. And when you live in that attitude of gratitude, it really recalibrates your energy, your frequency, and you draw more things to you to be grateful for. Just as when you are dissatisfied, when you are resentful, when you are complaining, you draw more of those circumstances and situations to you. It's all about vibration. As much as I love words, I realize that the universe doesn't really communicate in words. It communicates in energy, in vibration. So the feelings that we have and how we direct that energy, that is what we are communicating to or with to the universe. We're making energetic transactions. So if resentment is what you are using to make a transaction, every action has a reaction. You're just going to get that back. If I'm using gratitude, or if I'm utilizing and directing gratitude to make my transactions or exchanges with the universe, then that is what I'm going to get back. You can't hide from yourself. You can try, you can run, but you can't hide. You can't hide from yourself. You can't hide from yourself. So harboring ill will in you and expecting another person to be affected by it, it's not ever going to happen. Liberate yourself, free yourself. Choose to look at that situation differently. Like, just pick up a different lens. How can I see this in a more divine way? How can I invite my higher self to be right here, right now, so that I'm not just speaking from my primal self, or my human self, or my ego-centered self. I'm actually speaking from a place of higher awareness. I am a divine being having a human experience. So just the same way that I can let my humanness be right here, right now, I can let my divinity, or my humanity, I can let my divinity be right here, right now. Please help me to see this more clearly. Universe, God, divine, dearest divine, please help me to see this situation more clearly. Please help me to gain an understanding. Please help me to gain emotional clarity. Please help me to be silent until I have the words to respond to this healthily. You know, little words, like little, just small things make a big difference. Evolution is a gradual progression. So, yeah, I hope this word helped someone. It reached someone. Message. Blessings. I'm grateful I came on here and chatted it up with you guys. Well, to myself, but with you. It's definitely been put on my heart to speak more, just to share the thoughts and the insight and the guidance that comes to me and through me. And yeah, to be obedient. And yeah, our human experience, we have the power to create heaven and hell right here. Based on the thoughts that we choose, and based on the experiences that we accept and entertain. So if you want to change what you're seeing, how you're feeling, what you're thinking, it starts within. And it's going to start with you becoming aware of where you feel dissatisfied within yourself, without judgment. With compassion, with empathy, with a genuine curiosity. Because most adults are just hurt children walking around in adult bodies. And hurt people hurt people. And we can believe that someone who brings hurt to another is hurting very deeply. So be compassionate towards yourself and extend that compassion and that grace, that empathy to your situations and to your circumstances. Just like us, everyone's going through something that they're not talking about, or that they may be unsure how to navigate through, and that's okay. It is okay. How we begin to heal is by softening into the discomfort, A lot of the times we feel discomfort, we feel, um, something that doesn't make us feel good. Our natural reaction, which is impulsive, is to tense, is to tighten, to get away, like fight or flight. Fight, flight, freeze. But when we have the spiritual insight and the emotional clarity, then we can choose to soften into what we're experiencing. Just like in our yoga practice, and the poses are hard. Yeah, it's hard, but you getting tense and squeezing it, grunting and doing all these things in these other places is not going to make it easier. It's just going to exert more energy. But when we take the time to soften into that discomfort, what lies on the other side of that discomfort is usually, almost always, 99.9% of the time, growth. Because growth lies just beyond the comfort zone, just beyond that line of comfort. And if we can soften into it, we would realize that sometimes less is more. Less effort, more ease. Less resentment, more contentment, more love. I think the answer is always going to be more love. Alrighty. Well, that's all that I wanted to share with you, beautiful people, beautiful, divine, beloved being. I love you. May you choose to direct your life in a way that is according to your highest potential, your highest purpose. May you choose to actualize your fullest potential. I believe in you, and I love you. Until next time, peace, love, and namaste. No, I'm just kidding. I'm out of here.